Hello and welcome to Reinventing Nerds. Today we have a wonderful guest named Rich Yumul. He's the CEO of Sagetree, and Sagetree provides web design, development, and marketing. Rich is an interesting background, which we're going to get into right away. He has a degree in mechanical engineering from University of California, San Diego, but his first job out of college was as a webmaster. And he's been doing that ever since. And he even has his own company now that does this. So let's welcome Rich. Hi, Rich.
Hi, how's it going, Joanie?
I want to know, we were just chatting before the show here a little bit about you being a mechanical engineer and then going into web design. And I held off because I wanted the listeners to hear your story. But I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell us how that happened and what that was like.
I was a mechanical engineering student at UC San Diego. And I had a minor in visual art. With the mechanical engineering degree, that was fine. I was able to do it. But then my hobbies were really computers and also graphics and arts. I was also the graphic artist for the school newspaper. First got a job as a webmaster at a local software company. That was a perfect job for me because it kind of married those two passions of mine, computers and art. So I was a webmaster. I was making web pages where I had to, kind of like build these technical solutions through this, this new medium that was really growing. And then you also had to have an element of graphic design background to make things look good. That's how I got into web development.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. The artistic side of graphic design is just, that's so much about putting together a good website, also knowing what works and perhaps what's visually appealing to people as well, right? You have to know a little bit about that. Yeah, like no red font on purple background or something. I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, okay, so you went from mechanical engineering to web design, and you all of a sudden you make it make sense, right? The way you put it.
Yeah.
Oh, right, we got that. So how did you come to starting a company and being the CEO of Sagetree? Tell us a little bit about that.
The company that I was working for was a defense contractor. We were doing software solutions for like the DoD and SPAWAR and such. And that was a really great opportunity for me because we got to build a lot of really cool stuff with like the latest and greatest technologies, right? But unfortunately, the space that I was in, a lot of it was more for demonstration, like proof of concept type projects, and it wouldn't actually be used. I started freelancing in the commercial space. And then that, for me, that was very fulfilling for me because the solutions that I provided, customers were using as soon as I pushed it into production. And then they were making money with it, growing their businesses with it, running marketing campaigns and such with it. And so it was really fulfilling for me. And then 2005, I finally made the decision to switch over to just, going off and being an independent contractor, freelancing, basically. I did that for a couple of years. And then just the volume of work, I started just, working my way up the food chain, getting bigger clients, bigger projects. And then I think it was like 2008 and 2009, that's when I started adding people the team. Yeah, and that's when we became a full-fledged company, and you've got all the business stuff you have to take care of, like like insurance and all those other things you don't really think about when you're just freelancing, out of your house and such.
Sounds like you're due for a 10-year anniversary celebration this year. Yeah, if it really started in 2008. I don't know when you incorporated, but that's a big deal. Wow. So you've been doing this for a while then.
Yep. Yeah. So we're a small team, but we get to work on some really cool projects and work with some cool clients. We've done some work for some of the bigger companies around town, like Viasat and Qualcomm. Probably our most notorious client is Comic-Con, and that's been a lot of fun over the years. We've been helping them out with their website. I always have to preface it. It's the website, not the ticketing. So everybody always has something to say about how difficult it is to get it done. That's been a lot of fun. I've been really excited to have that as a client. That was pretty amazing. I used to collect comic books when I was growing up. Landing them as a client was pretty amazing.
I can imagine. Wow, we were just at a Comic-Con event in New York City this weekend.
Oh, you were at it?
Yeah, we went to Doctor Who. There was just one event. We couldn't get tickets to get in. Because that ticketing website. No, I'm just kidding. Because it's just hard to get tickets to something people love. But
for sure,
a lot of fun, and there were people walking all around town dressed up. that's just so much fun to have great clients too as a part of your business. Is that something
Oh
that
yeah.
you seek out, or is that something that, they come to you, or how do you find a client like Comic-Con?
They actually found us. We built a reputation around having really strong expertise around this Drupal content management system. We got a phone call. It's like, hey, we're looking for somebody to help us with this Drupal website. What's Sagetree all about? What do you guys do? How do you guys work? Oh yeah, well, who is this? And it's like, oh, we can't really tell you right now, but yeah, tell us about yourselves. And so we thought that was kind of mysterious. And so after like a phone call or two, they decided, like, okay, we guys like you enough to tell you who we are, and it's Comic-Con, and everybody on the team was like, what? What's going on? Because nerds or technical people, they tend to be in the similar demographics that appeal to Comic-Con. So, yeah.
One thing that I've noticed is that you call yourself a website therapist, and being
Yes.
a psychologist, I had to ask you, what's a website therapist, and how can people have a better relationship with their websites? So yeah, what is
That's
that?
awesome. That's cool. So for me, a lot of times when we engage with clients, is they're in a state of distress. Their website is not doing what it needs to be doing. Maybe a project that they're working on has gone way over budget, way over schedule. That's why they're having a really poor relationship. Or if it's already in production, maybe things just take too long to be done. Or if they have new tasks or requests, modifications they want to make to their current website, it just takes too long. So there's really kind of like three things that's important to be able to have a good relationship with your website. So the first one is have a good relationship with your vendor. It has to be somebody that you could talk to, somebody that takes the time to understand your business as well as your industry. Each industry is unique, and within each industry, each business is unique, how they go to market and how they message and how they reach out. Just find somebody that you can have a good relationship, that communicates well with you, and that you can have a good personal relationship with. Somebody that's transparent. The way we approach it is try to educate our clients as much as they're open to being educated, because it's technology, and then like with technology, I can go off all day and keep on talking about the different things around what you can do. But sometimes the clients, they just need the bottom line, and so it's like whatever level that they're open to engaging at, we try to provide them with what they need to know. Second one is the right type of vendor. This is the other thing that we've seen, is that there's kind of like three categories within types of vendors that companies will engage in. First, usually it starts off with a freelancer, which is great. They're relatively expensive, and that's a great way to get started. But as your company grows, you might need different specialists, because now to host a professional website, it encompasses a lot of different specialties, not just the coding side. There's the design, making sure that the website's responsive, looks good on phones and tablets as well as desktops, content and strategy, language, messaging. There's a lot of different disciplines that go into making it. And so usually that's when companies graduate to like a smaller agency where they have more of those types of service to help your business grow. And then, once you get past that, then you're looking at, like one of those big agencies that these Fortune 500 companies typically engage in. So it's important to pick the right type of vendor. What I've seen is that as companies scale up, they start off with a freelancer or like a really small agency that just doesn't have the expertise or the experience to help them scale up. And that's usually when we get called in to help make that next phase of growth. The last one is just, I think this is just with anything, is just have clear goals. The more specific, the better. Our projects, when they're ambiguous items, those typically tend to be the expensive. To do the discovery, and then it can be really time consuming and resource consuming if you don't have a really clear vision on what results that you want. Sometimes you don't know. It's because you're not a technologist. But what we do also is just we'll have like some sessions or workshops where we do a discovery, where we can help set reasonable goals for what they can expect.
Well, so one thing I'm hearing from you is that obviously you need to be able to speak in their language to be heard by them, but you need to help them speak your language too. I mean, if they don't have goals, or they don't know what they want, and you need to help them figure that out, or
Yes.
just go hands off and let you take the lead on that. But it's kind of an interesting thing is helping them understand what they need to know to be able to get what they want.
That's absolutely true. That's one of the things that I had to learn. That was part of my learning process. Was I had to learn to translate. Coming from mechanical engineering and then a programming background, software development. Now I would use a lot of acronyms, terms, Java, UML,
Yes.
ETC, all these acronyms that when I started talking to clients about, their eyes would just glaze over, and then they would just completely like disengage because I wasn't speaking in something that they understood. So it's really important to, when you talk to clients or new leads or whatnot, pretend you're talking to your grandma. And so you can talk in a language that they understand, and you have to really try to be empathetic to your customer. Or also another thing that is an important skill is to be a vocabulary detective, vocabulary sleuth. Clients, they don't know the proper names for all the different types of things that you can do on the web or in my industry. You guys can be talking about something using the same term, but they mean totally completely different things.
That sounds like reflecting back in there, to ensure that you understand what they mean and using different words. And then they'll say something like, yeah, or no, I meant this. And then all of a sudden you'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, that's an important skill to have. And don't assume because you're using the same terms that you're right, because the client's the one that's paying the bills.
Yeah. Oh, that's good too. So when they have a term, you just work with it and redefine it.
Redefine it and then just work with them, either educate them or just have a mental note that, okay, when they say this, they really mean this.
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds really interesting. Even though you're saying the same words, they can mean really different things, especially to people who aren't in that expertise. They just see something and they think that. I'm certainly guilty of that. But you just pick something up and you think you know what you're talking about. But
Yep.
Wow.
For sure.
So one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about is this. You said empathetic to their situation, and you started out by saying you're a web therapist in terms of people starting out with their distress. So how do you bring empathy into that? And that seems like an emotional part as well as just understanding the words.
For me, coming from that background in software engineering, where it's very kind of like binary. It's like on or off.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this person's having some kind of problem. Okay, this is the solution. Let's do it. Sometimes with people, that's too jarring. I also invested some time in actually just like learning about business. Usually the type of people that we deal with are business owners or marketing directors or marketing vice president. So just learning about the different types of challenges and things that they wrestle with, so I can empathize with them and understand their motivations, really helps. And just expressing that, okay, yeah, I could really understand how a particular issue or particular problem is very distressing or creates a lot of stress for them. Mm-hmm. Understanding that and empathizing, it helps you develop that relationship. So you build that trust. You'll have an easier time communicating, okay, so this is the problem. There's a couple of ways that we could get to a better place.
No, that makes sense. So that, I love it the way you said that you actually took it as an investment of time to learn about the kind of issues that they're experiencing so that you can understand them and then be able to speak to them and with empathy.
For sure.
You talk a little bit about different challenges that you run into. You have a group of people. You're not the only one who's interacting with your clients, right? So what kind of things come up for the engineers in general in terms of some of those soft skills that they've needed to learn?
A couple of those things that there's learning the vocabulary, learning to listen to make sure that you're talking about the same thing. That's been a really important thing that I think that served me really well, is to learn to not take things personally. People are stressed out and they come to you and they're expressing what's happening, and they may be heated and then sometimes can be really emotional, and it can get you kind of flustered. But then one of the things is to have the awareness to understand if you're starting to feel kind of like triggered and getting caught into it. So, take a step back, try to listen for the message. What's the underlying message that they're trying to communicate? Are they unhappy with the performance? Are they unhappy with the way they might have been treated, or how, an expectation might have not been met? And then that way you can respond from a level-headed perspective, which is I think a benefit, because like when you work with somebody, you want them, you're hiring somebody to be professional, and that's really helped. The other thing that I think is really important to understand is the different levels of communication. Like face-to-face is the highest level of communication because you get the message, the voice, the tone, the emotion, then also there's the body language, right? And so you really understand where that person's coming. And then from there, it might go to something like this, video, which is, I think, pretty awesome because you still get the body language, a video chat, and then phone calls, then email. And one of the things that I made a mistake with relying too heavily on email when I first started is I thought it was so cool. I never had to talk to these people, these clients, and I get paid. That's so cool. But then when I started getting into, like, email is the worst. If there's an important type of communication, email is the worst way to communicate because so much can be read into the words. And then, I remember this one customer I was working with, their IT guy, and it seemed like every email message, he was just like challenging my expertise. I found it a little bit insulting. And then, and I was getting really heated until finally I just gave him a call, and it was really congenial. I was like, oh, hey, yeah, I was just wondering if we could just do this, this, and this. And it was like, it was kind of funny because there was so much energy and emotion on my side, where it's like, I should have just called the guy first rather than just getting all this worked up and just like working on revising an email response like 12 times just to, craft it perfect. Like, oh, what a waste of time.
Oh, so that's interesting. So it's like a waste of time. Also, you're getting into like a really mismatched communication there because you're thinking he's challenging you and he's just saying, hey, I have these great ideas kind of thing.
If it's anything important or anything where I'd say at least give a phone call so you could at least get the voice, and tone and emotion behind that, which is kind of funny because, like, being a technologist, now we live in a world where everything's over email or text or Twitter or whatnot, where the written word, there's a lot of ways that can be misinterpreted, which I think contributes to why we have things called flame wars.
Yeah, no, that you're preaching to the choir here, because that's one of my things that I do is help virtual teams communicate better. And picking up the phone is the first thing. Like, just like you said, you can avoid so much misunderstanding, and it also just warms things up usually because people realize there's a person on the other end, when you're talking to a human, as opposed to just, like you said, the sort of flaming into the space of the ethers.
Absolutely.
There. Yeah. Okay. So, well, let me think about this. I have a couple other questions. I mean, you're talking a bit about sales, and you talk right now sort of about the customer service side and interacting with customers, but also you have to persuade people, or sell items. So what's been your secret there? I mean, you've talked to me about some of this audience-centric communications and things like that. How do you describe what you've had to learn to do to be in that position?
Ultimately, I think it's the human condition, right? People just want to be understood, and that you understand where they're coming from, and that you have a solution to get them from point A to point B. You can help them, guide them on a journey that will get them into a better place.
I love the way you say that, Rich, because you're like, hey, this isn't that complicated, really. I mean, people make it out to be so complicated. People want to be understood and listen to them to understand what they want, right? I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny that we sit there and overcomplicate things, and sometimes it's the action of actually being present, I think, is what you're saying, and really trying to hear what they're saying. And perhaps that motivation, rather than to be spewing out information to them, to tell them what you have to offer, is really finding out what they want. Yeah, that sounds like a really different approach.
I mean, it shouldn't be, but I mean, that's the thing, that one of the things, I forget where I read it, but like, people do business, I think it was from Zig Ziglar book or something, but basically people do business with people that they like. And so how do you make people like you? Just, communicate, relate, be in a relationship with them, empathize. I
Yeah,
think.
I mean, yeah, also just talking about the relationship, you said that several times during this conversation about really thinking of it as a relationship. And
Hmm.
relationships take work, they take energy, and they take a lot of communication and trying to understand the other person. I mean, I can say that after being married for a very long time, that there have, even now, you think you can
Oh yeah.
finish someone's sentences for them, but no.
No,
So
don't do that. No.
I
Never that. Yeah.
know.
No. Just
Absolutely.
wait and be patient. Yeah.
You know, one of the things I want to ask you about too is because
Hmm.
you've talked about moving from mechanical engineering to web design and moving into having a staff and working with customers or clients. But what about as a leader of your team? What kind of issues have come up with you there in terms of the soft skills? I mean, have you had to go out and learn areas there to manage your folks, or are they the same kind of things that you've been talking about already?
There's those elements that are kind of infused, throughout my experience. I think one of the painful lessons that I've learned is that my team members aren't mind readers. When I see a problem, and I talk to a client and see the problem, and I think in my head, okay, that's great, we could do it, this way, this way, this way. My team's like, yeah, we'll solve it this way, and we'll be good, right? Kind of have that expectation that my team could be my mind, and I'd get frustrated why they would do things wrong, and why it would take longer, and why they would do it one way that I was totally not expecting them to. And so it just takes more effort to communicate your vision and the way you want things implemented. That's also the other thing that is important, is to keep it simple. Our clients and the things that we, when we engage with them, we try to figure out like what's the smallest number of moving parts that we can build or use to solve the problem, because more parts, more complexity, more conversations that need to be held. And so that's, I think that's one of the key things that for people that are moving to the leadership positions, just spend time on communicating the vision on how you want certain things done. What are the results that you want generated, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. You said a lot of really interesting things, Rich. If our listeners or viewers want to get in touch with you or Sagetree, what's the best way?
Oh yeah, just hit us up on our website, sagetree.com, or they can just email me, rich@sagetree.com too. So it's
Yeah.
really easy. Yeah,
Keeping it simple. Well, this has
I
been
appreciate
really
it.
interesting. I mean, the time has flown by, Rich. You have really said some interesting things
Oh
for our
yeah, wow.
listeners and viewers. I mean, all about just being able to communicate, I think, is so much about what you've talked about today in the various
Sure.
domains of working with clients, working with your team. And I think the key that you've said so much is listen, listen, listen to
Yep.
understand where they're coming from, what they're experiencing, and what they want, right?
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's it.
and with
That's
your
exactly
team, it's
it.
also helping them understand what you want, right? In terms
For
of
sure.
being a leader. Yeah. Wow. So
Awesome.
thank you so
Yeah, you
much.
got it.
Thank
Well,
you for
thanks for
being
having
a
me. It was
guest.
a lot of fun. That
Yeah.
was neat.
Well, and thanks to our listeners and for Reinventing Nerds. Please, if you like the show, please rate and review it. If you didn't like it, email me or call me and let me know what I can do differently. And thanks a lot for being here, and have a great day.